Cruisin' 92.1 is WVLT Vineland, serving the Delaware Valley with the best music and the best talk.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect that of radio station WVLT, Clear Communications Incorporated, its staff and management, or our sponsors. WVLT Clear Communications Incorporated retains the right to record all phone calls received during this program for future promotions.
Happy Saturday again with Tracy Kelly, Joe Yakovich, Main Street Money. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Another great Saturday for us, talking about what's going on in the market. I know the market has been all over the place, and we're seeing some new highs on the S&P. Closed up over 1570. The NASDAQ 3267, and the Dow again is running up. Going into the 14,500 range. So all good things are looking good. What have you seen lately, Tracy?
It's a runaway market all over the place, as you would say, but on a good note this week. So those are always positive signs.
You know what? They're talking about the market that's reaching at its all-time high or close to it. But if you recall, in 07, 08, before it did its little correction, the price-earnings ratio, the profits and earnings of a company in the market at that time was about 20 times. What PE stands for is price to earnings, what the profits of a company and their earnings. And now you're looking at probably about 15 times earnings. So in retrospect, it's a good sign that stocks are still, believe it or not, are undervalued compared to that of the year of 07 and 08. So be aware of that. So it is a great time to continue to purchase 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds, stocks, and such. And I think we're going to have another run-up because most people are thinking, the market's going to reach the high and it's going to go down. And, and we're seeing a consistency, there are bumps in the road, but a consistency of the market going up again.
And money flowing back in. But believe it or not, I've heard a statistic that only 3% of the investor money that left the market in 2008 when there was a big crash has returned to the market. So that means there's still a lot of cash that's on the street. So that could be a positive sign too, meaning that, there's only up to go as far as inflow back into the markets.
It's funny you say that. If going back into the market, some of the big companies out there, it's a good sign when companies actually buy back their shares. A couple of big firms and the big companies that are out there today, they're sitting on so much cash, as you mentioned. What's happening, basically, they're saying to themselves, what's the best investment? And they're looking inwards to themselves and saying, maybe we, the company, we're the best investment that's out there.
So they're buying back their stocks because they think that they're a good investment?
Correct. And that's a very good sign. Anytime you have a company that buys its own shares back, it's a positive sign for the company because they're saying to themselves, you know what, we are undervalued and we want to purchase our own company shares purposely for a better value. So it's a great sign when you see companies buy back their own share prices.
Interesting. So if I'm Nike and I know I've got some new shoes coming out on the market and people are liking to run, then I'm buying that stock.
Correct, exactly. So that's a good sign, and you need to be aware of that. Most people sometimes are not aware of that, of buying their own companies back. Stock price. The other thing you need to be aware of when you're purchasing equities or stocks, if you are stock buyers out there, to be aware of distribution. Distribution is when some of these large mutual fund houses start to sell off their positions in stocks. That's not a good sign. They're dumping it. They're telling us, the public, they know something that we do not know. So be aware of that also, besides having companies buy its own share price back, but also companies dumping their shares or getting rid of their company shares to the open market because they don't feel that their company is going to be doing as
Joe,
much.
how can the average person keep an eye on that? How does the average person know where to go and how to look to see if there's dumped funds out of their mutual
That's
funds?
fun. It's funny you
and
say
their
that.
accounts?
Well, some of it now you can actually get it online, and you can actually get it in some of the papers. The papers being the newspapers out there. Wall Street has a piece in it that you can do and look at. You also have some of the papers, Investors Business Daily, that also gives you the opportunity to get that information. So it actually lets the public know on when companies are actually buying their own shares back and or dumping their shares. It's actually public information, so you can look at that in any of those papers. They will give that information to you, and it's good to know that. I mean, you don't have to see it every day, but it comes out weekly, this information, and it lets the public know what's going on with their own stocks, in particular if they're owning stocks as opposed to a mutual fund or something that they might own as a group of fund, either ETFs or mutual funds.
So what you're saying is basically to find this information and to really be educated to make the right decisions, you have to be your own advocate and you have to go out and solicit that information yourself, because your mutual funds, your IRAs, whatever it is that you have, they're not going to send you a little note saying, by the way, we're dumping stock.
Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. So that's something for everyone to be aware of. We, in particular, we don't do a lot of that because it is quite tedious. But when we talk to our clients, we inform them where they can get that information. If they own certain stocks, they might own outright. So we make them aware of that information for them. So it's a helpful tip for all of you listeners out there, what we do and why we do it. The other thing is important for us to be aware of is that housing starts are booming also. So housing is starting to pick up. I talked to a couple of realtors over the last couple of weeks, and they're real happy with that. And also mortgage rates have been hovering in the, under 4%, 3.5-ish 30-year rate. So that's a great sign that it looks like the government's keeping interest rates under control. Now the question becomes, is some of the banks, will they lend you the money as easily as it was because of credit or credit issues? So be aware of that. Again, great time, home purchasers, because the market's starting to take, especially this time of the year, springtime, summertime, starting to pick up some steam, and also interest rates being leveled off under the 4% mark, which is a great sign, because easy number to comprehend. When rates used to be 6, 7, 8%, now you're looking at under 4%. And again, the pressure, again, as I said to you all last week, the pressure is to go up, not to go down. So we're looking at a great opportunity to purchase homes, and in all the communities, I'm noticing great things that are happening in the communities out there in terms of housing starts.
Or maybe a great opportunity to sell your home if you've been sitting on the real estate thinking, should I do it? Should I not? The markets have been down. I might take a hit. I know that I wrestle with that every day the past year, and it looks like things are coming up. So it really may be a decent time to consider that.
Yeah, well, no, and not only that, you got to be just hope that what you're selling, Tracy, is something that didn't take that much of a dip a couple of years ago. So if it, kind of broke even from what you paid or what you're sitting on, absolutely another great time to potentially find a good buyer if you're selling. But again, how much did your home or house or condo go underwater when this 07, 08 debacle with the real estate market?
Sure, but in a lot of ways, we talk to people and find out their situation first. What are your goals? What's coming in? What's going out? And sometimes that decision to buy or to sell, it's also based on lifestyle, and it's based on your personal preference. Can you handle those home payments anymore? Do you want to be there? And sometimes you have to make tough decisions based on the answers to those questions.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of questions that we do ask our clientele, and most folks, it's an ordeal. But I think after, it's almost like going to a doctor. Getting an X-ray, getting an MRI, and making sure everything is working at peak performance. And we do the same thing. I mean, we sit around and have fun with that. But at the end of the day, when we do sit with our clients, besides listening to them on what their needs, their goals, their objectives, where they want to be in 5 years, 10 years at retirement, it's an issue that is somewhat uncomfortable. But after they get through that first understanding on why we're getting that information, it's pretty much a free standing way to look at things. I mean, you're looking at the big picture, you're looking at certain things that looking at in front of them, how long they're going to continue to work. I mean, I read something the other day, Tracy, I don't know if you caught this piece, but people over 65 are working actually longer and into their 70s. What do you think of that?
Well, sure. That's not new news to us.
Well, it's new because it's going to affect the economy. Think about it, Tracy.
Well, sure, but it's not new news. How many people do we see? I mean, do you want fries with that? And you're 70 years old.
Yeah.
It gives a new meaning to fast food. We see a lot of people that have to continue to work, and it's often difficult for them to get jobs sometimes because there is, just like there's sexism and there's racism, there's ageism.
Never heard, that's a new one. Ageism.
You never heard of ageism? You'll experience it soon enough. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's funny because the biggest concern now is because the same folks that are in their 60s are starting to realize, you know what? The new folks coming out of, or new kids, I should say, coming out of college, what is it going to be like? So the pressure of that is going to start to mount. So we all need to be aware of that. That's the real economic problem we're going to start to face going forward here.
So many things that we all need to be aware of. There's just not enough time. But I do hope when we come back, we'll have some time to get into a few more things.
I can't wait.
Looking for more information, maybe some specific information regarding your retirement or insurance or Medicare planning? Log on to www.jmlfinancialgroup.com or call us at 856-751-1771.
And we're back with Main Street Money with Joe Yakovich and Tracy Kelly. Tracy, I know last week we had a conversation about we were talking about the 4.5 decade plan.
Yep, 4.5 decades. You didn't really like it.
No, I liked it, but it was somewhat controversy to me because even though the people start to work, when they're in their 20s, but they really, really don't get that serious about putting any type of money away until their 40s or 30s and 40s. So I buy into the 4.5 decade working, but I don't buy into the 4.5 decade of the saving.
Well, the average person does tend to, get serious about saving at a later date. Not everybody.
No.
But yes, you're absolutely on target.
That's upsetting because we both know that saving early, even just a little bit, is a major, major plus going forward because of compound effect and in the market or not in the market generally. But whatever that may be, just putting money away on a regular basis. And our rule of thumb is putting anywhere between 10 to 15% away of your gross is the ideal way to comfortably retire. So one of the things that we talk about all the time.
Well, it really is an issue because the average retirement account for a 65-year-old is $212,000. And the average years in retirement, who knows, 20, 30, maybe 40 years if you really take care of yourself or really have some good resuscitation plans. $212, that just may not last with inflation and high taxes and the cost of medical bills. So it is an issue. I mean, there are solutions for sure if that is the area that you fall in. But if you are in your 30s now's the time to start thinking, even if it's just small. Baby steps will get you there quicker than no steps.
No, you're right. The other thing we talked about last week was, what would you need and have at a pot of dollars? How much would we need at age 65? And I think we came up with a couple of numbers. We came up, if you needed $3,000 a month, $4,000, $5,000 a month, how much that would equate to. And I think we were looking at somewhere about $1 million plus.
Well, it depends on what you tell me you need per month. Some people, they might say, I only need $3,000 a month. Somebody else might say, I need $5,000 a month. You said you needed a minimum of $10,000 a month.
Right.
But what does that generate? And the other thing is, just because I need $5,000 today, does that mean in 20 years that number will still be sufficient?
Right.
I don't know. But, if we're looking at that middle of the road number and you tell me $5,000 is that number that you need to really kind of get by and have a little padding, that's $60,000 a year. Times, let's say, 20 years in retirement, it's $1.2 million that you need.
It's something else we talk about, but in staying on this, stay right here where
Okay. I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. Will your assets be able to support your longevity? And like you said earlier, 20 years, we're looking at people living in their 90s. So it could be 25, 30 plus years. And they're talking about, because of technology, people living into their close to 100, if not more. So you can see, will they run out of money? And that's the big concern of ours.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the point, is can you live off of your assets? And if your assets are not enough, if $212 is not enough, I'm sorry, $212,000. 212, now we're really in trouble. That's exactly the point, and that's what we've been really trying to drill home.
Yeah. The other thing we never even mentioned, besides the over $1 million that's required to live at least comfortably, we need to understand also, folks, that, taxes, inflation, market changes. Someone that has a market correction when you're 65 is completely different.
Back up for a second.
Than somebody 45.
Tell everyone what a market correction is.
We saw that just recently in 07 and 08 when you had the stock market take somewhat of a pullback. We're at the high of somewhere about 14,500 and moved somewhere in the area of about 7,500. So most folks out there, 401ks, IRAs and such, probably lost anywhere between 40 to 50% of their worth. Now, understand, folks, did you really lose that much money at that time? Well, you weren't going to use it. But somebody 65 years of age, they lost it. Someone 45, well, they had no plans on using it that time anyway. So those people can pretty much withstand that downside risk to be able to know all along going forward, long term, the market will come back. That's history. But someone in their 60s need to take a little different view on what we talk about as far as how much money, what's required. More importantly, where is that money located? Is it in a pension? Is it an IRA? If it's in a Roth? If it's an annuity? So it's something to put a strategy together, what we do in the firm. So it's something to talk about. You want to continue down this road?
Well, I just think the moral of the story then is take a look at where you are in your working life and ask yourself, can I take a market correction, which I believe the technical term is the market goes down the toilet. Yeah. Can I withstand that? Is my money in a place where if it goes down the toilet, I can make it back up? If I'm 65 and I want to retire next year, I don't want to be fishing at the bottom of that bowl for my money.
No, you're right. And some of the big mistakes that we never consider, like you said earlier, is longevity. This is to me, it becomes really a big issue today because of technology. Longevity, people are really living much longer. So one of our pet peeves is when you go into retirement, one of the things we talk about, do you have long-term care insurance? Is that something you need to have? Protect that 1.2 if you have it. Now think about it. If you have 1.2, and for those of you, if you don't, that's another conversation, but even what you said, 212,000, if you happen to go into a facility, what happens?
ooh, your money's paying for that,
You got
no
it.
matter where it's at. And I've got clients, I don't care if they have 20 cents or 20 million, I want to help them protect it.
Right. And that's a big concern of most people. They think,
It should be the concern of everyone.
and that especially there, because if you're talking about having enough money and something like that would happen, and they're talking about 1 in 4 at age 65, and when you get to 75, I think it's something around 1 in 4 also. But my point is, if we use that 1.2 could be taken away from you immediately.
By the way, when you talk about a long-term care event, everybody always talks about going into a facility. It sounds so dreary,
Right.
But if it's me, if it's my mother, if it's my father, I'm going to hope to be able to keep them at home. I want to pay to have them stay comfortably in the home with me, or and that's what most people do want. So it's being able to pay for that as well as going into a facility.
Well, that's something that we talk about with our clients, and one thing we do is make sure they do have home health care. That's part of the long-term care, and they should be looking, when they do look at long-term care quotes or looking at long-term care companies, be aware of that. It's one of the questions that you need to ask your advisor. Do the type of contract that you have, does it include home health care? And you need to be aware of that. So that's one of the questions that I hope someone listening out there today will take away and understand, that besides going into the facility, if that's the case, but most people, I would say 50%, do not go into a facility. What they do is they go and are handled at home with someone that takes care of them in their home. So be aware of that.
It really comes down to understanding the options that are available to you in some of these long-term care insurance contracts.
Well,
How long will they last?
They
How,
think, Trace, they think what you say all the time. They think Medicare is going to take care
who's
of that.
they?
The public that we talk to people about, oh, yeah, Medicare will take care of that for me.
Well, sure. A lot of people do think that Medicare will cover some of those expenses. And true, Medicare does cover certain expenses in the home. Certain times they'll cover things that are nursing home related. And if you want to be made comfortable in your home in a hospice event where you're terminal, Medicare will cover that. But if you want to be in one of these new nursing home facilities, which look like hotels, some of them, or you want to have somebody come to your home and do what's known as custodial care, which is bathing, cooking, cleaning, that kind of thing, dressing you, then that's not covered by Medicare.
Nope. So
And
be aware of
it's
that.
important to know your options when you are addressing those things. And important to know your options if you're out there and you're 40 and you're saying, you know what, it's not really an issue for me yet. I don't want to address it, but it may be an issue for your parents.
Well, more importantly, the government, as you said, starts to take care a little bit of that. But unfortunately, you see the pressure that we're under because of baby boomers retiring. Just think, the government
Well,
definitely going to change the rules.
when
You're
you
not going to have some of that stuff going forward.
when you say the government takes care, I'm not sure if you mean when Medicaid kicks in for you to go.
Correct.
Well, the issue with that is in order for Medicaid to kick in and for them to start paying for your nursing home fees, which, by the way, it's going to be a nursing home that they select, not
right.
necessarily you.
Right.
You have to go through what's called a Medicaid spend down. And those of you who've been through it or helped a loved one through it, that's basically liquidating and getting, utilizing the assets that you have, whether it's real estate, whether it's, pension money, whatever it may be, liquidating that to pay for everything you can until you have nothing, almost nothing. That's not really the technical term for Medicaid to come in and say, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's a big issue that America is faced with, and we need to be addressing it. And we address it as early as we can, talking to folks about, hey, how do you save money the right way? I mean, it's something that we always talk about. So it's amazing to me and frustrating on the same hand that we can't get people to save more money. And I think some of it is, where do I put it? Where do I put the money? Do I just put it in all my IRAs? Do I put it in my 401ks?
Mattress.
Do I put it on my mattress?
Freezer.
Right. So no one knows today because of the epidemic of information that's out there. It's almost, people are afraid to start doing things because of all the frenzy you hear and you read on TV and in the paper. So we kind of let everyone know there is a plan in place, and it's not about products. It's about the process of implementing multi processes in place and products in place to make sure it's working at peak performance and efficiency. So that's kind of what we do all the time. So,
Well, and we'll be back after the break. Stick with us.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I heard you, Joe.
I mean the listening audience, Tracy.
Okay, when?
Every Saturday at 1 o'clock, we get real about money and we have fun.
That's right. We'll simplify all the issues when it comes to your money and give you some tips on how to make it, protect it, and keep it.
But they have to listen.
Okay, you can only ask nicely.
All right. That's Main Street Money with Joe Yakovich and Tracy Kelly, Saturday at 1 p.m. on Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT. We're back with Main Street Money with Joe Yakovich and Tracy Kelly on a beautiful, beautiful Saturday afternoon. Tracy?
Best day of my life.
You better believe it. You want to go over a couple of calls that we've taken in? And,
Well, I not so
emails?
much calls, but some emails. I can't talk about the calls.
All right.
Emails. We've gotten a few listener emails, and I did want to bring up a couple that sort of repeat themselves. So I'd like to
Sure.
address those. First one.
First one.
This is something you hear occasionally.
All the time, probably.
Hey, I really like your show, but I need to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, you offended me.
No,
You've never heard that before,
never,
right?
I never offend anyone. Are you kidding me? Come on now.
Major eye roll here. You all can't see me, but
Oh, it's burning up the floor here.
those of you. Anyway, he goes on to say, I normally love what you both talk about on the show and the financial advice and insight that you give. However, you talked about gold not being a good investment. I have gold in my portfolio, as was advised to me by my advisor, and I feel that it's done quite well. So I'm not sure why you would make such a statement.
You know what? Gold is one of those oddities. First of all, it is a commodity, which means it doesn't do anything, meaning that it doesn't
Sparkles.
grow. Pardon me?
It shines.
Yes, it does
Sparkles.
shine. You are true about that. You know, depending what type of gold you have. But it is not something that grows in the value that it's whatever people think it's worth. Like a stock, if something is made and generates income, profits, earnings, better buy. But the caller or the email person, are they talking about buying gold when it was 200 or 300, or they're talking about buying gold when it was
Well,
1,500?
that's an interesting point because it does not state here when this acquisition was created. Because my thinking is if he told you to buy gold 10 years ago when it was $200 an ounce, A plus, man.
And guess what? 10 years ago, folks, we own gold in some of our portfolios. Not the physical aspect of gold, but the gold companies that mine gold in certain parts of the world. So 10 years ago, gold was a great buy in owning the companies that drilled gold. Today, gold is being shorted. Gold is not what it used to be. People are starting to recognize the fact that gold is at an all-time high. It's been bouncing around all over the place. And at this level, this is not the time to buy gold. And our belief system is depend on that person. It all depends on the individual. You think about it. If it's a person's 40, 50, 60, or in retirement, gold is not one of those things that I tell clients to buy unless you have it a piece inside your portfolio as a gold company or a stock that owns gold.
But truly, right now, gold is at the top of the market. I mean, I think we learned from the real estate market, it's probably not the best thing to buy an $800,000 house at $1.2 million. So
Correct.
why would you want to buy gold at this point?
Correct. Absolutely.
It's funny. I remember one of our clients talking about buying gold because when the apocalypse comes and this next depression and the whole economy goes down the drain, they want to have gold. And I thought, you know what?
Who's going to give you any money for the gold?
You got bigger problems. And by the way, I don't think that if the world is that bad and we're in an apocalypse, I don't think I want anyone to know I have gold. I'm not that tough.
You know, we go back to always what we say: increased savings, reduced debt, almost always triggers increased spending, which causes the economy to expand. So again, it's saving more, living on less, and that's our thinking.
Well, here's one. What about the person that says, I got a couple of pieces of gold, gaudy ghetto gold from the 80s that I will never wear again. Should I go sell this to one of those get cash for gold?
Yes. I just did that a couple of months ago at the all-time high. I took some of my old gold, as you say, pieces, and I gave them to and I went to a few people that actually the pricing was different all over the place, but we got the high of the high for the pieces, and we got some cash out of it.
Well, I'm hanging on to my gold. I don't have much of it.
Yellow
but
gold you still have?
I have some gold. I like it. It
Yellow
shines
gold?
on blondes. Blondes look good in gold, and I've got one of those old Sex in the City necklaces that say Tracy that my mom bought.
Oh,
I'm not getting rid of that.
She's
my Tracy necklace. It's gold.
She's a big daddy type, isn't she? With that?
I like it.
Oh, nice. What else do we have on the email there, Tracy?
All right. This question we hear a lot. The writer writes, Dear Joe and Tracy, I think he meant to say I love your show, but he didn't put that in there. I'm 50 years old, and I am at the final 5 years of a 20-year term insurance policy. My mortgage will be paid off soon, and my kids are growing. Do I really need to try to convert this to whole life insurance?
You know, there's some mixed opinions on that. I heard someone on the radio the other day that said, no, get rid of it. You don't need it when you retire. Well, it's a couple thoughts on that. Number one, how do you spend your money? And we talked about 1.2, but does it spend better and more efficient if you have life insurance with that investment side by side? Number two, do you want to leave a legacy? That's a concern. Some folks definitely want to leave a legacy behind, either to family, spouse, or charities, a great way. Number three, it's tax-free. So life insurance, the benefit itself is tax-free. The other thing is that it depends on a couple of things. Affordability. Is the person maxing out any other 401ks or being matched? How much presently, right at this time, do they own in debt? I mean, are they up to their nose in debt, or are they pretty much under control? And lastly, with what we do in our process is make sure that if life insurance is a component, we do a side-by-side comparison on if they are getting the best rate, and also what it does look like if they do convert to whole life insurance or permanent insurance, as we would say, and can make that comparison.
Well, it's amazing how at 40, when you maybe look into the future, I see so many people that say, I'm not going to need insurance then. And then when you meet that same type of person at 55, 60, they're freaking out because their term insurance is running out.
Right.
I had brand new clients in last night, and they were in their late 50s, and they had done this prior to even meeting me, that he has a life insurance policy on himself because he has a significant pension coming to him. So in order for them to take the maximum amount, they put life insurance on him so that if he should die early, she's not losing out on his pension. She's going to make up for it with the death benefit.
Correct.
But one thing I will say to that, I asked her if she was the owner of that policy. And she said she was, and I said, good girl, because you know what? I like to believe in love and everlasting marriage, but sometimes things happen.
Here we go.
Girlfriend better stay on the ownership of that policy because you just never know.
Do you have any life insurance and policy on me that you own? Is that? No.
No.
Okay, I'm just kidding. The other thing, Tracy, insurability factor. You know, people get older. Their insurability usually changes, so it's tougher to get insurance. We have that one client in her 70s that worked for the the system. And
The
unfortunately,
system.
you know the system, right?
What is this, CSI? What's the system?
Something like that. A teacher, and
school
unfortunately,
system.
school system. I don't want to say, but either the federal system. But unfortunately, the type of insurance is going to run out, and he's in his 70s, and we cannot buy him anymore or convert because of his insurability change.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
he's
we
high
can.
blood pressure and is diabetic now, and it's a tougher road to hoe. Now he's going to be running out, or in this case, his insurance is going to run out in the next year or two. So it's a sad thing. So we see that quite a bit. So insurability factor is a major issue when you are purchasing or trying to convert with convertible type of insurance that's out there. You can convert with, don't have to go back to the insurance company to prove your insurability. So be aware of that. So if you are a term buyer, make sure there is a convertible feature in the policy. So it's something you all need to know
Well,
about.
it really comes down to it depends. It depends on your personal situation, your family situation, your retirement situation, and of course, your cash flow situation.
Well, cash flow is a big point, but I think we talked last week, if we didn't mention this, 40% of the people age 65 going into retirement have still mortgages attached to them.
Sure.
So one of the
Some by choice.
Yes.
Some not by choice.
We just did one just recently. We did a reverse mortgage for a client. We helped them through the process. And to back that money up that they were going to receive from the real estate, we were able to put insurance on the spouse. So in the event premature, the money would come back in and fill the bucket back up or fill the house debt back up automatically. So that's one of the strategies that we use, again, with insurance.
Absolutely. So it depends. You need to consult somebody
Yes.
qualified to talk about that is really what it comes down to. And another thing that was brought up at a meeting last night was the gentleman asked me, he said, I've been paying a decent chunk on this waiver of premium, and I bought this like 10 years ago. I honestly don't even know what the heck this is.
Waiver of premium on a policy,
On a life insurance policy.
life insurance policy, allows you to have the company pay the policy premium in the event if that person became disabled. So what happens in this situation is that if somebody becomes disabled owning a life insurance policy, the company would waive the premium, actually pay the premium for the full length of the contract. So be aware of that also. Another rider, we call them, on the policy that should be included. All the clients that we talked to about this, even with term insurance or whole life insurance, we always include the waiver because we never know
Sure.
if a disability
And the
would
younger
occur.
you are, this is really where it matters. If you're 55 and you're towards the twilight of your career, well, you know what? Waiver of premium may not be the most important thing to consider. But if you're
Right.
35, life happens. And, God forbid a disability happens. But you want to make sure that life insurance isn't going to lapse because let's be real, if you're disabled and you can't work, that life insurance may be one of the first things to go because you need that money for your family.
Yep, you're right there. What else you have there, Tracy?
All right. I have another question. This one's from Voorhees. Somebody in Voorhees, anonymous.
Voorhees.
She wants to know if she should leave her old 401k with her prior employer because she's now employed somewhere else.
No, you don't want to do that. Well, one of the reasons why I say no is because now you can roll the money over into your own IRA and really diversify where you yourself want to put that money. A lot of times in a 401k, you have a limited places to put the money. There's limited on where and what funds that you're able to put those dollars away. But with an IRA, it's almost unlimited where you can put that money and invest that money prudently. So we're big believers of making sure that when people have old 401k, we consolidate them into one IRA and diversify prudently in a portfolio that they pick and choose what risk tolerance. And again, going back to what we said, how much risk are they willing to take? Are they truly diversified? Are they investing prudently? Is the portfolio or the money being managed, is it being turned over, meaning that is the portfolio itself being churned inside and you're paying an excessive cost? Some of the costs range from 2, 3, 4%. And most people don't know that. So yes, we're big believers of making sure that you roll that money over to your own IRA.
And just to clarify, when you said turned over and churned, that basically means is there a lot of buying and selling of various funds going on? Because let me tell you something, when there's a lot of buying and selling going on within an account, whether it's a mutual fund or an IRA, people like me make money, the banks make money, you pay for it as the investor. So
Right.
you want to make sure that there's not a lot of that going on.
That's something that the buying and selling aspect of most mutual funds that are out there, no one sees.
They
Our
don't have to. It's not required.
Right, the governing bodies that we govern what we say and what we do not have to tell the public, let alone tell us. But if you look real deep in some of these prospectuses,
Because
you'll
we
see-
all do that.
Well, I do, because you can see immediately if the portfolio is being turned over.
You
An
do, but
well, the average portfolio
the
turns
average
over.
person's not reading that.
Well, an average portfolio is turned over probably in the 100 to 150 times per year. So you can see these talking heads on TV, they're getting paid, and that's how they're getting paid, from the turnover in these portfolios. So be aware of that. So ask that question. What is the turnover rate on my 401k, on my IRA? And you want to know that. That's another great question you should ask your advisor. And then again, someone like us come back and make a real side-by-side comparison, like a blueprint to another blueprint, and make sure that your portfolio is not being turned over excessively. That's where you're losing a lot of your money.
Yeah, it really is a question to ask your advisor, because I know so many people, you get that big prospectus with the really little writing. And Joe, think about your friends, the smart ones. Are they reading that stuff?
No.
No. It's like almost like Chinese or Greek, when you don't speak Chinese or Greek.
Right.
So it's a question to ask. And I think when you mentioned before, you wouldn't want to keep it there because you want to be in control and you want to be investing in things that you want. Well, most people might say to you, I think they do a pretty good job. There's a couple different investments. There's like 10 or 15 in there. I'm cool with that.
Well, it again goes out what we talked about before. Not all companies, not all, some will continue to allow you to keep your money in their
Sure.
plan because you're no longer working there.
Well, absolutely. Sometimes they do give you a time limit.
Right. And I'm a big advocate of making sure that you control your own money and you have control. You know exactly where it's located. You're not worrying about the bank, or you're not worrying about the company or the mutual fund, or every couple of years someone else comes in and changes the portfolio or changes the mutual fund family. That's not what I want for any of my clients. So we, again, go back to what you said. Control your own destiny, control your own outcome of what you're putting your money into. So you have that money and you can enjoy looking at it and staring at it, as we say, to grow. We wanted to see it grow like you guys do.
Sure. And you know what? I don't really expect that you, and you being the average person out there, knows exactly what funds they want.
No.
And that's why you work with a qualified professional that can help guide you in those areas. And that's what we do. And I welcome you to email us or call us with any questions, personal financial questions if you want those things evaluated. Our website is www.jmlfinancialgroup.com, or you could give us a call at 856-751-1771.
Trace, we I don't know if you mentioned to the listening audience that we have what we do when we do meet clients in our office or on the internet. We do have a program that we use purposely just to show a side-by-side comparison of what they have and what they should have. And it's amazing to me when the folks we talk to see it and they understand it, and it's not a long.
Well, it's basically an X-ray for your account.
And it's simple. It really is, folks. You'll see the turnover. You'll see the overlapping. When I say overlapping, multi-funds own the same stocks in each fund. That's not a good sign. It's costing you more money. But when we able to kind of, peel back the onion, so to speak, we can see a lot of things, and it will show most of our clients why they should not be in that situation and why they should move the money and go into a diversified type of portfolio. So we're big believers of that, that's for sure.
And when you do put something under a microscope like that, it really does become obvious if it's broken or not. Just like a regular x-ray, I can put a nice healthy leg x-ray up to one with a broken leg. You don't need a medical degree to know that that leg's broken.
Right.
I know, the doctor sees other things, and that's kind of what we look at. We see all the detail. But it's very clear and very apparent when you have your account under that microscope, there's a break. You're seeing the break.
Yeah, we see that all the time. There's a lot of breaks in the legs that we do see, and it saddens because no one today is actually taking the time. And it's, again, going back to what we said earlier, it's simple, not complicated. It's making it very, very simple to explain to people, to our clientele, how this stuff works. And once they see it, I mean, I had a client a couple of days ago come in, and they were in awe on what we did with their money. And it wasn't anything special. It just that we diversified prudently across the globe. And at the end of the day, he goes, he didn't know what he had. And let me take you through this very methodically. And I did that, and he went on the website that I told him, and he was I was impressed because he had his little laptop there with me, talking to me, and he said, "Oh no, this is great. I love it. I got a chance to download this stuff, and now I look at it weekly, and he's involved, and that's the most important thing. Being involved with your own money. Do not just depend on one person to think that they're going to give you all the right answers. That's not the game here, folks. You got to get a couple of different opinions on who your advisor is going to be and how they're able to help you. I think that's the most important advice that I can give to anyone listening, because it's important for you to get multi-opinions before you make that final decision on who is going to work with you. Do they work as a team? Do they have other people they're working with? Do they have a center of resource of people that they help you with? And that's kind of what we do. And that's what's so beautiful about what and how much I'm passionate about doing what I do every day with my Tracy Kelly. So that's kind of a fun day for me.
It's the best day of my life.
Every day. So
well, it's funny you talk about multi-opinions and asking the right questions, because I'd like your take on this.
Sure.
I like to read, all the online blogs and the different online conversations, and I get a kick out of a good Facebook news feed and watching people fight with each other online. I love it. It's great. I do. I love it. I love when people yell at each other online. It's fantastic. Anyway,
crazy.
So I read some of the stuff that goes on within our industry, and there's one specific Facebook news feed that's private to an advisor group that I'm part of, and the one advisor said, I have this client, and she's questioning my putting her in specific bond funds because she's heard what's going on with bonds and that they might not be a good investment. And somebody else, and I think you know the guy, he commented back, fire her, she's not coachable. And the other guy said, well, she's asking the questions and I just want to make her feel comfortable. And then the next guy, the other advisor's response was, if she's not listening to you, fire her. And I thought, you're a jerk. We tell people to ask these questions and we tell you to be informed and to ask other opinions. What's your thought on that?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't fire her. I would explain to her bonds, especially in this environment, it's similar to a teeter-totter. The pressure of bonds, as far as interest rates concerned, are going to start to go up. And as bonds or as his interest rates increase, the bond price, the bond that you own, decrease in value. So if you're going to own a bond, this is the worst time to own a bond. There are other alternatives to that. But more importantly, let's stay on the subject of bonds. When bonds are high, they're great, meaning that when interest rates are really high from where they are today, then there might be a reason to buy bonds. But still, for those of you that are buying bonds, not a good time to buy them right now because of interest rates and the sensitivity of the market going up in terms of interest rates. The bond price is decreasing in value. And again, going back to what I said, the bond itself does not do anything. I mean, when you own equity, when I talk about equity, stock, it could be a mutual fund, it could be an EFT, it could be any of these other vehicles. Owning equity for the long term is your best place, not just in the U.S., but abroad. It's the best place to invest money today. It is, no shadow of a doubt.
Well, and I think that this person's response was also that the bond holdings that were in her portfolio were all either short or mid-term bonds, so they weren't really at risk to that long-term volatility of interest rates going down, going up in the long term, like 10 years. So simply explaining that to the client probably would have made her feel at ease. But the more important thing is, do you agree with me that the guy's a jerk?
I wouldn't say that now, but I know who you're talking about. But, going back to buying bonds, stay. I'm not going to say anything. Stay short. If you're going to buy short-term money, and if you need short-term dollars, do not buy bonds more than 5 years. And if you're going to do that, you're asking for a lot of problems because of the volatility, like you said earlier, of a long-term bond. The volatility of the bond is just too high.
And we're always encouraging people to ask the questions. Don't feel afraid to ask questions. Usually they're good questions. And I would much rather a client ask me a question, pick my brain, or tell me what your concerns are than just say, she won't understand or she'll feel offended, and then they leave, or they make a decision without me. Ask the question.
It's funny you say that, because in our workshops, and I've heard you say this in your workshops with the Medicare, you sometimes start to just open up the dialogue to the people in the audience. You just ask them what's going on. And before you know it, you have people talking about issues that you would never thought to present your material the way you would have by just opening up questions to people that say, how's that work? Explain that to me. Let me explain this and why not. And it makes it a nice conversation when you start our workshops that way versus just peeling off material and just continuously just talking. So we tend to do more of that these days, of finding out what's important for people and what's important about money to them and what they should do and not to do, but what predicament they're in right now, and everybody's in it. Like you said, everybody's in a different predicament going forward, especially in retirement. We don't know what they're having their children come back to live with them, or their parents are getting into a situation that they need to get help from us. Every person we talk to is a little different. So in our scheme of things, we're asking good questions and being good listeners. And
encouraging people to ask questions also. It's funny, sometimes in my seminars, if there's somebody in the audience that I know, I'll actually feed them a question or say, could you just do me a favor? If you're my current client, ask a question.
Right.
Because, people feel a little timid at first. I don't want to ask the first question. But my goodness, once that first question's off the charts, then it's just like all of a sudden it's 2 hours later.
I remember, Tracy, watching one of your workshops, and you
were in awe.
You asked a few questions, and you never got to the material, and I think the seminar was much more perceived when you just asked the questions, and you had people talking among themselves. So it was kind of cool when I watched that.
Oh, I'm not sure what you mean. It was better with the questions?
I liked it. I liked it with the questions, because I think one person, when you get those questions going and the questions are starting to come and you're getting the answers and you're answering the questions, somebody says, I'm afraid to ask, and all of a sudden, that's a question I would have asked.
But I will say, if you do, attend one of our seminars, or and I hope you do, check the website, www.jmlfinancialgroup.com, or call us for an updated schedule, 856-751-1771. If your question's really, really personal, save it for offline. When it comes to, sometimes people will ask medical questions or things like that. Save it for offline. But
it's all good.
Joe, I think we want to wish everybody a happy Easter and a happy Passover.
Right. I mean, that's Big,
I've got a lot of jelly beans to eat. Here's a trivia question for you of a very important study done recently. What is the most popular Easter candy?
I'm going to say chocolate bunnies.
You are wrong. Hey Warren, you got a guess out there? The most popular Easter candy. You got it. Is that what you said, Peeps? He's
What do you
right.
get?
Peeps.
Peeps.
Peeps. You know the little marshmallow. What are they? Chicks or bunnies?
It's chicks. They're marshmallow
Yeah, it's
chicks.
like a cavity and a little. Yeah, you've never seen them. They come in yellow and red.
Oh, I
or
do
not
like
red,
them.
Pink.
Yes, they come in. I know. What do they call
That's
them?
the Peeps.
I never heard them called peeps before.
That's
I thought
all they've ever been
They're
called.
called marshmallow chickens.
Nobody calls them marshmallow.
I must be. I'm
chickens.
old school. They still call them marshmallow chickens in my
Do they
town.
call Hershey Kisses chocolate triangles? No.
She got me on that one. They call peeps. I never heard that. That's a
Yes,
new one
they're
for
called
me. See?
Peeps, and they are the most popular.
How did you know
My
that?
favorite is also in there. The Reese's peanut butter eggs.
Oh,
Reese's peanut butter cup eggs. Those are my
still-
personal
I
favorites.
still like the chocolate bunnies. I don't know. I'm a sucker for
It's because
chocolate
you can
bunnies.
bite the heads off and you feel powerful. Not nice.
Yes,
But we
yes.
do want to wish everyone a very fantastic holiday weekend and just a happy welcome into spring.
Another big dinner on Sunday. So
That's always a big dinner for
all
you.
good. All good. All good.
Please visit us, www.jmlfinancialgroup.com. And Joe, you want to take us out for the weekend?
Okay, Main Street Money 92.1 every Saturday from 1 to 2 with Joe Yakovich and Tracy Kelly. We look forward to seeing you next Saturday, again on this beautiful Saturday.
Is it Saturday?
It is Saturday, Trace.
We'll see you all next week.